Right here then, this story right here is about a day in the life of bubblegum, right? Interesting? Yeah? All right. And this was written and illustrated by these fourth graders. Okay? And they actually, Scholastic Books hosted a contest and had kids write stories, and if they liked it, they published it. So that's kind of cool. So I want to share with you the story, One Day in the Life of Bubblegum. There once was a piece of plain bubblegum who lived a very plain and boring life. Then one day his life changed. He was sitting at the candy box next to a lollipop like he always did when a hand reached in and grabbed him. It picked him up, took off his wrapper, and popped him into a little girl's mouth. And what does the candy say? Brr. It's cold outside my wrapper. The next thing the gum felt was teeth chomping down on him. It made him feel good to know that he was wanted. I love massages. Meanwhile, outside the mouth, the little girl and her mother were on their way to the park for a picnic. Come on, guys. Hey, where are we going? When they reached the park, they chose to sit on a park bench. It was time to eat, so the little girl took the gum out of her mouth and stuck it under the bench. And he says, I can stick to anything. Oops, we got a bright light there. The gum waited patiently for over an hour, but the little girl didn't come back to get him. All he could do was stick there and watch feet go by him on the sidewalk. And he says, hey, your socks don't match. A park maintenance worker named Bob walked up to the bench and started to scrape off the paint. He scraped quick and hard under the bench and sent the gum flying onto the sidewalk. I'm flying. A businessman walking in the park stepped on the gum and it stuck to the bottom of his shoe. Boy, you're in a hurry. He walked to the street, flagged down a taxi cab, and headed for the center of the city with the gum tagging along. Watch where you're driving. The taxi drove several miles and pulled up in front of a huge building. As the man stepped out of the taxi, the gum fell off his shoe and onto the sidewalk. Free at last. Just then, a small golden bird glided over the heads of the people on the sidewalk. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the not-so-pink bubblegum. What a beautiful bird. Thinking that the gum could be used to build her nest, she picked it up in her tiny little beak and flew off towards the park. I need a travel agent. As she soared over the park, she saw the rest of her flock and heard her mate calling her. She opened her mouth to respond, and the gum fell to the ground. Where's my parachute? She dove to retrieve her find, but she was too late. A foraging squirrel saw the gum land and snatched it up in his furry front paws. The bird flew sadly back to her flock. Your paws tickle. The squirrel proudly held his prize in the air and took a nibble to see if it tasted as good as it smelled. Ouch! That hurt. Sitting in the grass and admiring the gum, the squirrel had caught the attention of a small but ornery dog named Smokey. I'll give you a peanut to set me free. Smokey barked at the squirrel. The squirrel ran away and Smokey started to chase him but stopped. Smokey saw the bubble gum that the squirrel had dropped. Nice puppy. Good doggy. Smokey sniffed at the gum curiously. He bit it and started chewing. The gum stuck in his teeth. The gum says, you need a breath mint. Smokey walked over to his owner and tried to bark, and all that came out was a gurgle because of the gum. Get me out of here. Smokey's owner asked, "What are you chewing on, Smokey?" The owner opened Smokey's mouth, picked out the gum, and stuck it back under the bench. No, not back under here. Anybody want to make a prediction? It's gross, yeah. The next day, the little girl and her mom came back to the park for a walk. The little girl wanted to rest, so they both sat on a newly painted bench. Where have I seen those shoes before? The little girl looked under the bench, and sure enough, the gum was still there. When her mother wasn't looking, she put the gum back into her mouth. That's more like it. As she chewed, she thought to herself, "Hey, this gum tastes better than yesterday. I wonder how it got so good." Ew. Funny, though. So this book was written by a group of fourth graders who decided if a piece of bubble gum could talk, what would it possibly say about all of its adventures that it was having? And this is what we're going to do now in our creative writing project, is we are going to think of an object and we are going to write a day in the life of that object for our creative writing.